Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We can have a moment. We're going to get started. We're still waiting for a few of our federal delegations that are on their way, but I don't want to hold everybody up, and we'll bring them in whenever they get here. First, I want to do a little housekeeping. We have council members here that are joining us today. We have the council president, Darlene Young. We have a council majority, Laura Nijinsky, Councilman Greg Green, Councilwoman Barbara Smith, and Councilwoman Heather Bell. Here comes our esteemed Senator Chibula. So, you know, oftentimes we fail to recognize or look at things that are different than us and appreciate what that person or those people are experiencing. So unless you walk the mile in a person's shoes, you don't understand some of the trials and tribulations that they may have with everyday life. So 34 years ago today, George H.W. Bush, President George H.W. Bush, signed into law the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it was a wonderful thing that helped equalize and make as much as possible things a lot easier on people with physical handicaps or challenges. And so we're here today to celebrate that. We're here today to recognize that and to make a firm commitment to that law. We in Norwalk firmly believe in doing everything we can to comply and with the Americans with Disabilities Act. All our sidewalks that are being built have the ramps for people that can navigate the sidewalks a lot easier. If a sidewalk that's not being rebuilt doesn't have a ramp, we're putting them in. If you look right out front here in the front of the building, we're making the front of the building ADA accessible. And so many other things that are so important that we want to make sure that we do and do on a regular basis. And every project that we have in the city of Norwalk, we want to make sure it's ADA compliant. So I am now, it is my honor to introduce and recognize a person who is well known across the nation, a person who works very hard for the state of Connecticut, for the country indeed, a person who spent many, many years as Connecticut's Attorney General and dealt with issues like this. He's always looking for ways that he can help people, and it's my honor and my privilege to introduce Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Inspired to see this group, which looks like America. I look at this group, what I see is America, a nation that is inclusive and that celebrates diversity. People who are different, we're all different from each other. And I am honored to be your United States Senator. For those who may not have heard these guys, late last night, I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here this morning on this beautiful day to celebrate not just the passage of a law, but the people who should benefit from it. And the mayor is absolutely right. We is a work in progress. And so I have sponsored more legislation to provide more jobs, more employment, because only 1 out of 5 people with disabilities have jobs. Done better in Connecticut, but there's still work to do. More health care, because only 1 out of 4 people with disabilities have adequate health care. And more financial support, because 25% of people with disabilities live in poverty. This nation has an obligation. It's not just a legal obligation. It's an obligation of humanity. It's a moral obligation. A moral obligation And I want to finally just say thank you, not only to you for being here, but for your great work. And to the city of Norwalk and to your mayor, Harry Riley, who has always been a champion of this legislation, the ADA. And to all of the people in Norwalk, the staff, volunteers, who make Norwalk a city at the forefront of respecting and enforcing and complying with the ADA. It is a great honor to be with you. Thank you so much.
Blumenthal, we really, really appreciate your presence here. Shows your commitment to the ADA. We also have, I mentioned, we also have a city clerk, Irene Dixon back there, and town clerk, Rich McQuaid out here someplace. But I want to recognize Guardian Service Industries and Leo Reddy, who does a lot of our ADA work in the city of Norwalk and around the building. They donated food for today. So So we are still waiting for Congressman Hines, who is on his way. But in the interim, I want to introduce Sarah Lopez, the Outreach Assistant for Senator Murphy's office.
Good morning. Today I'll be speaking on behalf of U.S. Senator Christopher Murphy. So the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act is a time to celebrate the progress we've made and to recommit ourselves to the work of achieving equality for the disabled community. Throughout his tenure, Senator Murphy has been a leader in the Senate fighting for disability rights. He champions the rights of children with disabilities through legislation to end punitive discipline practices, including seclusion, restraint, corporal punishment, all acts which are used disproportionately against kids with disabilities. He also leads the appropriations push every year to increase funding for programs in the Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act, including more developmental disability councils, university centers for excellence in developmental disabilities, the protection and advocacy for individuals with developmental disabilities, and the developmental disabilities projects of national significance. Senator Murphy will always keep pushing to ensure that we uphold the promise of the ADA by removing the barriers that people with disabilities too often face and ensuring they have equal access to educational and employment opportunities, healthcare, and community-based services. The fight for accessibility is the fight for everyone to live their life fully with no barriers and no restrictions. And Senator Murphy will continue that fight along with the rest of our state and federal legislation.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, people with disabilities understand the challenges sometimes for things that we take for granted, normal transportation. How do you get from place to place? How do you make sure that wherever you're going, you can get there? Doctor's appointments, going to the pharmacy, going to different places. One of the people that helps make that happen here in the city of Norwalk is the director of the Norwalk Transit Authority, Matt Pence.
As the mayor said, I'm Matt Pence, director of the Norwalk Transit District. Happy Friday, everybody. Quick question, does anybody wish it was Monday?
No.
Not seeing any hands on that.
No.
So I say this quite often, and it's been referenced throughout history. Mobility enables freedom. And I started a talk on Transit Equity Day with the same slogan, mobility enables freedom. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, which paved the way for the Civil Rights Act in 1964, solidifying that no person be excluded from public transportation services based on race, color, or national origin. On July 26, 1990, 26 years after the Civil Rights Act was enacted, the Americans with Disability Act became law in the U.S., prohibiting discrimination based on disability. The ADA requires public transportation operators to provide transportation solutions for people with disabilities and also requires space for wheelchairs on public buses. For the Norwalk Transit District, ADA paratransit service is a significant part of our operations. We provide over 100,000 ADA trips per year through Norwalk, Stamford, Westport, and Milton. We have dedicated and knowledgeable staff. Our operations leader, Joe Williams, and Nada Content, are ADA experts who coordinate over 300 trips a day for our paratransit network. Very important people like that. Make sure that every drivers are trained, make sure you get there safely. It's tough work that they do. They're in early every day and they take their job very seriously. So they're great. We're tired of moving the 30-person Norwalk Transit workforce is in the middle of ADA sensitivity training with the Kennedy Collective. We provide ADA training throughout the state. What I've learned from training is that disabilities come in many forms that require techniques for executing proper, compassionate service for our riders. For many passengers with disabilities, public transit is their only form of transportation. So many of our passengers rely entirely on our services to get around. Our riders are very knowledgeable. Many of them know our system better than myself. They have our bus routes memorized, they have our timetables memorized, many passengers know our vehicle numbers, and many passengers know unique characteristics about each and every one of our buses. The Americans with Disability Act enacted 34 years ago today, which created mobility, freedom, and an outlet for higher quality of life for people with disabilities. Our mission is to provide the entire community with transportation solutions. At Norwalk Transit, it goes beyond that. Senator Duff, Mayor Rilling, and the entire Norwalk delegation has supported our quest for more bus service. In the past year, they have supported adding new evening and weekend services, which enhances our paratransit network. The Norwalk has one of the most robust microtransit services in the region. When a fixed route or paratransit bus is out of range, our microtransit service operates throughout the city and has wheelchair accessible vehicles in our fleet. John Wardella, to my right, is the Mobility Service Director of the Kennedy Collective. His group provides ADA sensitivity training to our bus drivers and also provides training for passengers throughout the state with disabilities on how to maximize the use of public transportation networks so that people can get to wherever they go. John was excited to join today's celebration and share a few words. So thank you very much for having me. Our team.
And Kennedy Collective's Mobility Services Department. We're based in Humboldt, Connecticut, and one of the services that we offer is sensitivity training to bus operators and staff at public transit districts throughout Connecticut. We're in the middle of sensitivity training here at Norwalk Transit District, and if you're not familiar with it, there are 16 different transit districts throughout the state of Connecticut, and we work very closely with all 16. There's 11 paratransit agencies in the state of Connecticut. We also work very closely with all paratransit agencies. Our sensitivity training is based on guidelines from the Federal Transit Administration and the Americans with Disabilities for transit districts to operate vehicles and equipment safely and to properly assist and treat individuals with disabilities who use the service in a respectful and courteous way with appropriate attention to the differences among individuals with disabilities. Another service that the Kennedy Collective offers is travel training, where we teach people with cognitive, sensory, and physical disabilities how to independently, safely, and effectively use public bus and rail systems throughout the state of Connecticut. Since the 1990s, we've graduated over 5,000 persons who have disabilities, and they've completed our travel training program and have continued on to use these life skills to increase their independence, their confidence, and their quality of life. There's no charge associated with our travel training program. The only charge is the training has to pay for the bus or the train ticket during the training. And this training is all sponsored. The funds come from the Department of Transportation and CT Transit. Our travel trainers provide one-to-one instruction, and they are all experts in all aspects of the Connecticut transportation system. And the persons that we have travel trained are high school students that are transitioning into the world, veterans, and persons over 65. For more information on all the Kennedy Collective services for persons with disabilities and how we create purpose, we ensure inclusion, we build community, and we challenge the status quo for persons with disabilities. So please contact us if you go to the kennedycollective.org for all the services that we provide persons with disabilities in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
We've also been joined by another person who works very, very hard, not only for the 4th Congressional District, but the entire state of Connecticut and the entire country. A person who has gained much respect in Washington, who speaks and people listen. It's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Jim Hykes.
Thank you. What a wonderful crowd. I'm sorry I came in a bit late. I had another obligation to Stanford, but I'm just so thrilled to be here joining our senator, along with Chris Murphy, federal representative in Washington. Of course, the ADA was a landmark federal effort, and we're here to celebrate its 34th anniversary. But I want to really shout out to the organizations like the Kennedy Collective. I think we've got a lot of Kennedy Collective people here today, and so many organizations that actually work to make the idea that our disabled fellow citizens should enjoy the same access, the same depth and quality of life as those of us who are blessed not to have disabilities. Yes, a federal law is important, and we should celebrate that, and we need to defend it. But it is, of course, on the ground in organizations like the Kennedy Collective that we're actually giving people the tools and the support to do what a society should do, which is to stand by and to take care of its most vulnerable members. So I want to just, in addition to celebrating the ADA, I want to say a big thank you to the caregivers, to the supporters, to the mentors who are here that assist our fellow citizens with disabilities. You know, a lot of presidents in different forms have made the point that the standing of our society is really not ultimately measured in our military power or in our wealth. It is what we are willing to do for our most vulnerable fellow citizens. That is the moral measure against which we are ultimately measured. And the ADA, the commitment at the local level, the wonderful nonprofits who really do so much for the quality of life of our most vulnerable citizens, really deserve a huge thank you. And thank you very much.
We've also been joined by Matt Blumenthal, a state representative from the I have to see who I introduce next. Bill Natick, who is the city's ADA coordinator, and then we'll have some speakers up there. Bill.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming. This really grew to be something a lot larger than we had hoped, and it turned out to be a very good problem to have, so very grateful that you're all here. We are here to celebrate the anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act into law, but we're also here to acknowledge that there are people in Norwalk that work often behind the scenes who are dedicated to ensuring that the city of Norwalk continues in keeping that promise of the ADA. In 2013, just a little background, the city conducted an ADA compliance and transition plan. And since then, our ADA transition committee has overseen the completion of numerous projects that have removed the barriers to city facilities and programs for people with disabilities. There is still much to be done, and we have several projects that are in process, and I'll just run those off quickly. We just completed egress sidewalks from the wheelchair seating area of our concert hall. And I welcome you all to go out and take a look at that after today's event. We have We have an accessible ramp that's currently under construction at the terrace entrance to the concert hall. And anyone who came in on Sunset Hill Avenue saw that construction project. So that's an enormous project, and I hope to have many of you come back here very soon when we do a ribbon cutting on that. We also have ADA compliant signage it's in the design stage. It's going to go out throughout this entire building, as well as the building next door at the health department. We've had nothing but cooperation from everyone in the building regarding that. And I just ask for your continued patience as we try to work that out. And additionally, we're going to be installing some power doors at the Sono rail station to provide easier access from the parking and make it easier for people to get out onto the westbound platform. So before I introduce our next speaker, there are some people here today I just want to acknowledge and thank you for being here. Star Incorporated, Lighting Way, have several members here. They are a local nonprofit. Please. They're a local nonprofit organization. They provide services for people of all ages with disabilities. And they've been a valued partner with the city of Norwalk for a long time. And we thank them for their continued. Members of another nonprofit, Ability Beyond, who I yesterday had the pleasure of meeting with a group of people from that organization that have a tour of the building, and it was wonderful to meet them, and they're doing great work as well. I also want to point out and thank that we have Katie Hedberg here today to join us all the way from upstate Connecticut. She is the ADA coordinating engineer with the Connecticut DOT. Thank you, Katie. An old friend and co-worker of mine, Phil McGowan, and his wife, Honorata. They are my counterparts for the city of Stamford and have done a lot of great work for that city. And Phil has done a lot to coordinate efforts among other people that are doing this kind of work. And it's rewarding work, and I'm glad we find this. I will just, before I recognize Carol, other members of our community. So our ADA Transition Committee oversees the work that we do for ADA projects. And we've had a couple of very long-time members. Since its inception in 2013, Daisy Franklin, as well as Sam Pride. I'm not sure if you're Michael Scobo, who's a retired, used to work in Garden. This event going today. We appreciate that. Beatrix Lane, who's the executive director of the and Mary Grace Giuliani, who is the executive director of STAR. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Carol Frank, who has been the chair of the ADA Transition Committee since its inception.
Good morning and hello. Thank you. I'll start again. Good morning and thank you all for joining us to recognize the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It has been my great honor. This is what happens when you get a group. It has been my great honor, along with my fellow commissioners, to be a part of the ADA Transmission Committee. My goal is to change the perception of the public that all people do not have to be in a wheelchair or walk with a walker to have a disability. With your help and continued support, we will be able to undertake more projects that will benefit the public and specifically the disabled. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Before I introduce our last speaker, I just wanted to make sure that I let everyone know that the work that I've been doing here for the last couple of years wouldn't get done without the cooperation of all of the city departments and all my fellow workers here who know me because I'm the guy that comes down the hall and bothers them with bad news every day. So I appreciate the continued support. Many have really proactively reached out to me. I want to make sure to mention the Department of Public Works, Transportation, Mobility, and Parking, Recreation and Parks, Health Department, the Senior Center, the Registrar's Office, and our Library Director and her staff, and Information Technology, who have really been providing a lot of help and support to me and have been very gracious and accepting of what I try to do for the city. So thanks all. So our last speaker is a young man that I was introduced to actually by my friend Phil. He was introduced as someone interested in offering his services as a summer intern. He got picked up by the New England ADA, and so their game is our loss. His name is Chris, but he goes by the name of Trip Lyons. He's a rising junior at Fairfield University. He studied political science with a minor in U.S. government and is a student ambassador, and he works for the Office of Accessibility for the University of Fairfield University.
I'm very happy to be able to My name is Trip Lyons, and it is a true honor to be a part of this great celebration. I am a proud disabled person and a rising junior at Fairfield University studying political science and United States government. Today, disabled people face major discrimination and inequality, but we continue to commit ourselves looking for reforms. We know the physical barriers and inaccessibility in our society, but we also recognize the need for accessibility in all aspects of society. We know about the inaccessible parts of society that often go unnoticed. For instance, city and town government websites are often inaccessible to those with visual impairments. Some websites may choose to host important information through the usage of graphics, but these graphics are not accessible to those who are visually impaired. Screen readers to access information on the web. Moreover, websites may not involve text on the images they provide which describe the image. signage to visually impaired people. In April, the Department of Justice released their new guidelines for the accessibility of web content apps operated by state and local governments. These guidelines set out a framework for ensuring the accessibility of local government web content to ensure that people of all abilities are able to access vital information. I strongly encourage our local governments to review these new regulations and begin implementing them to lift what is a major barrier to people with disabilities. Today, justice and equality, as we convene today, let us rejoice in the progress we have made to improve the lives of people with disabilities. Let us also remember that despite this progress, we have more work to do. Today, 34 years since the signing of the ADA, let us remember that we, the disabled community, and our allies have a unique opportunity to advocate for reforms that will not just help us in the present, but will serve generations to come. With this advocacy, we can work to ensure reforms that will truly create an America of equal access. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trey. Really has been a pleasure to meet you today. Lastly, I wanted to make sure to thank the mayor, first of all, for your continued support, supporting the projects that we do, supporting the work that we're doing. We are extremely grateful. Thank you. For not recalling your name, sir, but I want to thank our ASL interpreter for coming on such short
Personal testimony. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for all you do. You prove that persons with disabilities are not disabled. Thank you. The entire team of the Norwalk City's staff are committed to doing whatever we can to make sure that we help others. And so many of them are here today. Could you just raise your hand if you're a city employee? That is commitment, and we truly appreciate that. You know, as you go throughout the city or you see something that might not be right, we'd like you to tell us about it. We'll make it right. That's our commitment. You know, when you have someone who can put together on short notice an event of this magnitude, this nature, inviting so many people and so many people showing up, we always count on my communications director, Michelle Woods Matthews. Michelle, once again, thank you all for being here. There are refreshments over to the right, courtesy of Guardian Service Industries. So thank you very much. God bless. She has me, she points me in the right direction, and sometimes I fail to go in the right direction. I have a proclamation here. That was the last thing I'm supposed to read. I'll get on with that. So it's a proclamation for ADA month, July 2024. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed on July 6, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities. And whereas the city of Norwalk affirms the principles of equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities as set forth for the state of Connecticut and as embodied in the ADA, the laws of the state of Connecticut, and ordinance of the city of Norwalk. Whereas numerous organizations in Norwalk and Connecticut work with constituents and communities to bring forth promise of hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA. And whereas discrimination based on disability contributes to reduced opportunities in employment, education, the enjoyment of city programs and services, and furthers community segregation. By supporting the Americans with Disabilities Act in Norwalk, the city improves fairness and integration for the betterment of Norwalk and society as a whole. Now therefore, I, Harry W. Rilling, Mayor of the City of Norwalk, Connecticut, do hereby proclaim and extend greetings and best wishes to all observing July 26, 2024 as Americans with Disability Act Awareness Day, and proclaim the month of July as ADA Month in Norwalk, and in doing so, ask citizens to join me in supporting and understanding the Americans with Disabilities Act, and encourage all to continue working towards equal opportunity for the betterment of the Norwalk communities and beyond. In witness whereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Norwalk to be affixed this 26th day of July, 2024. Thank you. So, when I first started out this morning, I talked about sometimes failing to recognize the challenges that other people face. An event like this is a reminder that we should always think of others, try to help others in any way we can, especially those who, through the ADA, are designated as having a disability. And once we keep going to events like this, we'll always have that in the front of our mind. Thank you.